Welcome to Breaking Barriers. You know your path. We know the obstacles, and we can teach you how to tear them down. And now your host, CEO and founder of Adapting Social, John Vigero.
All right, guys, welcome back to Breaking Barriers. I'm excited. We have today with us Ed Parise of Township Living.
Thank you.
Good to meet you, Ed. Good to have you in person.
Yeah, great to be here.
It's actually funny how I met Ed through my father-in-law, technically. So obviously you went to get floored because you were next door at Precision Garage Door. And so there's a good backstory to that because my father-in-law does not do well with solicitors.
Yeah.
He's like heavy, not about that, right? And it's funny because when I started my business back in the day, did you ever go to Soundwaves across the street from him?
No.
It's like right down the road.
No.
So Soundwaves was my first ever client back in 2008. And I was door knocking. And funny enough, like that day after I got a yes from Jason at Soundwaves, I was out all day long. I was exhausted. I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm going home now. I'm done. Someone said yes. But the funny part is looking back now, so obviously, fast forward almost, what was it, 5 years later or whatever when I met his daughter, he was like, if you came in, it would have been bad because he doesn't like solicitors. So that's why when he gave your magazine, by the way, a little plug right here.
Nice.
He gave the magazine with your card on it to my mother-in-law, his wife, who also comes and helps us with the kids and stuff. And it's funny. So I saw it. Obviously, then I talked to you, and we're like, how did I get this? And then we figured it out. It was my father-in-law, Gennaro. But anyway, I think the cooler thing is that, you've been doing this for how many years?
6 years.
6 years.
Yep.
So for the people listening in, what is Township Living and, what is this about?
Well, Township Living, it's a community-based publication, and it gets mailed directly to homeowners in Township.
Right.
And when I started in May of 2019, which was our first issue, I was going to just over 2,100 homes. But now I've grown to about 1,000 or 4,000 homes. Every month, same homes get the magazine, and it's targeted to homeowners that live in Township.
Right.
And the families that are on the cover, they're the ones that really do bring the community into people's homes. It's talking about your neighbors. And, what I love about is as big of a town it is, it's very, very close-knit.
Yep.
And it's a big landmass. It's 38 square miles.
Right.
13 separate zip codes. So very difficult for people even to really understand that they're in Township. And those businesses that now want to be
There's 13
known,
zip codes in Wall?
Yeah, 13 separate. And not one of them is Township. It's crazy. So even when I meet with business owners, I'm really educating them about Township.
Right.
Because those are their main customers, are the families and homeowners in Township. So the magazine targeting that, and that's kind of how I met your father-in-law. And what I really love about my role now is not so much, trying to find sponsors to come into the magazine. It's really knowing the right business owners in the immediate area of Township. And father-in-law is definitely a true professional on that, but I can always see that too. He's, this isn't a kind of branding that he's looking to do. Although his business, does have a brand out in the market. People know Get Floored, and that's why I kind of stopped in to say, like, hey, I've heard about you. This is what I do, and that's really what it is. So my adventures is like that, just as many business owners as I can meet in the area that know me now, too.
Yeah.
And I like that. I love to be a connector for those business owners that want to be known by the homeowners in Township, but also if they need something. I'm a good guy to know because I'm out there meeting other business owners.
Right.
So it's
that's huge. And one of the things I always think about too is that the younger generation, even millennials like myself or Gen Zers, they don't want to go out there and do that door knocking or in-person stuff because it's like, oh, I could just shoot an email, or I could just, it's easier, more convenient for me to do it like this way where I'm not building, in-person relationships. But it's funny because ultimately, at the end of the day, when you think about some of the biggest, successful connectors or business people or salespeople, they have these relationships because they went and shook hands, they attended events, they went and did all these different components to build relationships in their network. And ultimately, that's how you build your business.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, again, even though we're in a heavy digital era right now, and obviously that's our business, I'm still to this day a huge proponent of like all my sales teams. Like, you got to get out there. You need to shake some hands. You know, the quintessential shake hand, kiss babies. You know, you sign some checks, and that's what has to happen. So I love that you're still doing that, and that, you know, obviously you're building that community throughout what, you know, people in Wall are seeing.
Yeah, and it actually helps me view these businesses. You know,
Right.
How am I perceived? You know,
Right.
like your father-in-law, like he was very welcoming. Although I know he doesn't, you
Yeah.
know, get solicited. He was kind of hidden in the store, but and I got that vibe. But I just wanted to meet him, and
Right.
now that I do,
Right.
now he comes into the conversation when people are asking me about flooring,
Right.
Because it happens all the time.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
especially in my role and what I do. You know,
Right.
I am, you know, always sought after for advice, and to be able to give the right advice, to be able to direct somebody to the right person that does whatever it is they need.
Right.
It was great to be that. It's not just so much of knowing somebody, but knowing the right person that does
Right.
that. And, you know, it was definitely an education meeting your father-in-law, because he's been in the business for so long.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
he was definitely, you know, obviously a great resource too, because
Mm-hmm.
it led us to each other, and like we're in the same type of, you know, environment. You know,
Right.
what we're able to do for people that need our help,
Right.
you know, is very unique.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you're right. It's, you know, we're living in an age now too where everything is just so loud. You know, and
Super loud.
and how do you rise above that? How do you do something that people actually enjoy and appreciate?
Right.
You know. And the magazine is great, because when people find out that I'm the guy that does that, they're the first thing that they do is like, "Thank you,"
Right.
and I love that. You
Right.
know, like, as hard as it is, no, my job isn't any easier because I put a nice magazine together. It's still,
Right.
I still got to meet with, you know, business owners and, you know, provide them with enough insight into what I do that they realize that this is a phenomenal way for them to be known by those homeowners that they're trying to target.
So if you were to go back, so I just want to get some, like, you know, some of your experience now that you've been doing this for a couple of years. If you would go back to the beginning of when you started Well Township Living, what that you know now would you do differently?
I think, and it's still to this day, doing it 6 years, it's I know my grunt work, and being able to do that at a consistent pace, you
Right.
know, which is difficult. It is, you know, as you know, well known as the magazine is, my grunt work still is really making phone calls. You know, which I love the genuineness about it all.
Right.
You know, I love the fact I'm the first contact to a business owner is
Yeah.
me personally, and going out and making a presentation, but really more so of learning about their business.
Right.
You know, so I think it is, you know, to really get to a new level, I have to meet a lot more
Right.
businesses.
Of course.
It's how I got to print 1st. But when I was getting to print, that's all I had to do was go out on presentations.
Right.
You know, now that I have a team behind me, the content part of it, I do get caught up in that, which I
Right.
love that part. I go to all of these family photo shoots. I
Right.
know them all. I make a joke, like, now doing this for 6 years, I got 72 families that I'm friends with. I can just show up at their house,
Right.
you know, and
Yeah.
like, "Hey, Eddie," you know,
Yeah.
like, "Come on in," you
Yeah.
know, and it's great to have that, you know.
Right.
And two, when other people meet me, they appreciate that they knew somebody on the magazine, you know, and that happens all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. And those families are like rock stars for a month, and, you know, it's nice to tell their story.
You know, it would be interesting though too, and obviously this could be something that we could discuss offline and potentially collaborate on. But when you create some sort of like video or / like almost like a podcast, right? It's a good way, especially into getting into other businesses, because the difference, like, again, like using my father-in-law again, it's like, instead of me going to his, like, that's the one thing I would do differently from the beginning, is like, instead of me soliciting and being like, "Hey, I want to, you know, I'm, you know, John Vigaro and I own Adapting Social. Let's talk about your marketing and your revenue and your website." What I started to do, well, I'm going to give my CMO the credit, but like, you know, in 2018, you know, she was like, "We need to start doing podcasts." And I was like, "Well, like, I don't listen to podcasts. And also, like, if you're not Joe Rogan, nobody's fucking listening to you."
Sure.
And anyway, it was but my one contingency was, well, you know, I'm a thoroughbred salesperson. Like, I love sales. I love building, like similar to you, I love building contacts, relationships. Over the past 17 years, I've met thousands of people that you know, similar to you. I go walk into their business and you know, I've either helped them double or triple their revenue, and they love me, right? And the whole thing is like, now what we do is we're doing this right now, right? Like you and I are sitting down, we're building a relationship, we're talking, and guess what? Now we have content that leaves here that we can both use. And now we're building a relationship. And so for you guys, I think that's interesting, right? And I always tell business owners, especially in a publication setting, where like, yeah, you can make 1 million calls a day, right? But if you're, no matter what, everyone's like, oh, and that's the grunt work, right? Like my sales team gets it, I do it still. But the easier lift is saying, hey, get floored. I have a podcast, called Wall Township Living, and I would love to feature you on my podcast, right? And blah, blah, blah. Because now they sit down with Ed, now they get to know you, and now they don't feel like whatever, or just hang up on the call or whatever, And so I think that could be interesting for you.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I started doing, my real estate expert, Danielle Coyle, she was actually my first sponsor in the magazine. She's been with me for 6 years. What she did, she had a videographer and for her homes, but we started having her interview local wall businesses. And I was her production scout because I was the guy setting up. We would do 3 or 4 of them in a day, and it's even businesses that are not most of my experts that come in the magazine. I eventually hooked them up with Danielle, so they know each other, in a different kind of way,
capacity,
and it's but that does take a lot of time and a lot of planning, and
right.
How it's not easy getting people in the same place at the same time, and then have a videographer show up.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, obviously you guys could always leverage our studio.
Yeah, absolutely,
right? Like this.
Yeah.
But I almost think it's interesting though, if like you open the magazine and you see like the family that's featured, and then like there's a QR code that you can listen to the interview.
Right. Yeah, that would be cool.
Because most people like again like. I forget the study right now, but like with websites, I'm not going to use a magazine as an example, but I'll use the data that I have off of websites over the past, 17 years. And on average, people spend 10 seconds or less on most websites. Typically it's less.
Right.
And so when you see that, what it shows you is that the websites that have heavy text, like a lot of content, that's the ones that they leave the fastest. The ones that have more images, audio, and video, they stay 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Right. So I think that's the next level of the elevation of this, right? Because again, like I'll be honest with you, I get these, I love them. Again, I finally convinced my wife to do it. I never read everything. My wife does, right? But I think a majority of people scan, see the family, read a little bit, and then I mean, and I'm a marketer, so I look at the businesses that are in there and stuff. But if there was some sort of QR code to listen to the interview or watch the interview that Wall Township Living does, now I'd be like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you could create sponsorships for, I'm about to take over Wall Township Living.
Here you go.
I'm buying it right now from them. Would you sell it ever?
Well, I'm part of a bigger media company.
No, I know. But do they own that? You own this
Yeah,
one, right?
I own Wall Township Living, but
Right.
I'm part of Best Version Media, which they're based out of Milwaukee. I was their 800th magazine that we launched, and now they're up to like 1,400.
Wow.
We're starting one for Point Pleasant now, too.
Which is smart. That's a good area.
Yeah, that's another publisher, and I'm
So
helping them get on it.
They get a split of what you make, essentially?
Yeah,
It's
pretty
like a
much.
franchise
Yeah,
almost?
yeah. Now that I'm up and growing, I get
Got
a
it.
big percentage of what I have. But but it was getting to print was the
tough
cover
part,
that
right?
baseline. It's a big nut. Wall's a big area. I
Yeah.
still have about another 1,000 homes I still want to add on there.
Right.
There's a lot of, and I'm looking to double the size of the magazine, but it's still intimate. It's still, people do read it cover to cover. I think a 52-page magazine as opposed to a 28-page magazine right now would still get read cover to cover, and people do read that magazine. It's what I love about the magazine is you can only do one thing when you're reading a magazine, which is read a magazine. You're engaged in it, and the people that do come up to me and thank me for that, they will always give me like blurbs about something they read in the magazine.
Right.
And so I'm like, that's great that people are paying attention to that.
Totally.
When it is a very confusing world out there, and I'm caught up doom scrolling, but when you're just relaxing reading a magazine, it's kind of comforting. And there's nothing controversial in there either.
Right,
That's another, I think, benefit of having a magazine.
Is
like
there?
that.
So let me ask you a question. So, is there like I said to my wife, I was like, and I don't know if I told this to you. Oh no. So do you know Dr. Nagy? He's the one who owns Borat. So I was with Dr. Nagy yesterday. I got to get a thing removed on my back. And I was telling him, I was like, I saw Borat in the Wall Township stuff, and he was like, I told him he should do that, whatever, and so he goes, I always read it, like he said, Nagy said, like I always read the magazine and stuff. But the one thing though too, that I was telling Nagy too, because Nagy knows like I have a big personality, and like as much as like if you look through like normally on an everyday basis, Rob and any of my team knows this. Like I'm always in a suit typically.
Right.
And so I'm like, dude, if we do this, I said this to Nagy, if I do this, you're gonna see me on the front of this, but I'm gonna be wacky, right? And now. Now, is there some sort of formality to that? So like when I say wacky,
yeah.
I mean like, you know, because I have 3 kids under 3,
yeah.
you know, like
Love that.
And I work really, really hard, but I'm also a big goofball.
Yeah, no, I love that too. Like, and that's kind of what I kind of stayed true to is having families. Like, you know, you just have a family that lives in a wall and you want to tell your story.
Yeah.
That's how you get on the cover. And it was interesting with Zach. He kind of reached out to me and loved his story with he and his wife growing up in Wall together.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so much of, hey, look at this cosmetic surgeon in town.
Yeah.
You know, it's the fact that, you know, these two did really well from each other. They got a beautiful family.
Yep.
But it's funny, even mentioning Dr. Nagy, I met with him because I need businesses in here to sponsor it. So I'm like, I want to have a cosmetic surgeon expert in there. So most businesses I bring in, they come in as the expert contributors. So now they can put content in there.
Right.
And to be a cosmetic surgeon, there's so much going on in that field that it would be great to have the right cosmetic surgeon in
100%.
there. And Dr. Nagy is definitely the right one for me because
Yeah.
I met with all of them.
Yep.
You know, and they advertise all down Route 34.
Yeah,
I call it Plastic Surgery Row. You know, they've got their faces on billboards. But like, give back and be, you know, part of a community. The sponsorship component of this magazine is unbelievable. It's like when you sponsor a Little League team.
Yeah.
You always feel good about those businesses that have their name on the back of a little kid's jacket, but you don't get that many sponsorship opportunities these days. You know, there's not that many, you know, soccer teams that are on out there, and you know, but you got to be able to be connected to the community. So
100%.
I'm working on bringing. You know, I'd love to have Zach like just come in and he wants to be the expert.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Right.
Either that's, you know, in their budget,
of course,
where they're going. I'm like, there's another plastic surgeon right next door to you.
Yep.
You don't think like when they see that, like everybody's seeing it, they're not going to reach out to me and say, hey, I noticed you don't have a plastic surgeon expert in here.
Right.
Well, you know what? Maybe I do now. That's
Right.
kind of how it goes. But,
Of course.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice you have the exclusivity though.
Yeah.
Of it. Like so again, like I said to you when I spoke to you last time, like today, like we'll talk offline. But you know, I want to make sure that we can put Adapting Social as the expert, you know, or me as the expert in Wall because I live in Wall. But yeah, it makes sense, and I think, you know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of cool creative things that could happen. But there's something so different about it. Like I always think, like again, like I used to, like if after this you'll see like in my office in the back, I used to get DuPont magazine when I was younger. I used to order them all. I used to get Forbes delivered to my house, Inc. All these different things. And at the end of the day, like over the years, like obviously everything migrated to like, you know, to the web, right? And like, you know, I stopped getting them. I just like eventually just stopped looking at all of them. But again, the relevancy that I think you've done so well, I want to commend you on, is the fact that like it is community based. Like you see people in your community, you hear about their story, whatever. You get to see other business owners in the community and stuff. You know, and I think at the end of the day, there's something special about that because, like, you know, I said the mayor lives around the corner from me. Like I see him. I ride. I have my old beach cruiser, by the way, that I used to bar hop with. Literally has a bike, a baby seat on the front and the baby seat on the back of it now. So I'm transporting 2 kids in the front and back. And I always pass the mayor's house, and I always have conversations. And recently, I said to him, like, listen, like, you know, we moved to Wall, you know, because we want to raise our family here, obviously. And, you know, what could I do to get involved in the community and whatever else? And so we started having this conversation. And I think at the end of the day, like the cool part about, you know, why I'm interested in advertising in the paper as well as, you know, doing the front cover stuff is because, again, like I want to be really ingrained in my community. I want to help. I want people to know John as a resource. Mm-hmm. You know, we help tons of people like throughout, you know, Jersey, you know, New York, tri-state, whether it's in their business or, you know, personally and stuff. So, you know, there's a lot that we do, whether it's charitable wise or just, again, helping businesses grow. Yeah. And so, you know, I want to do that in the community. So that's why I think it's good, because back to what I was saying about like Forbes and whatever else, and I stopped doing that for years now. What I like about this is that, again, like you go on and you're seeing your neighbor, right? Like I said, Greg is right down the block from me, you know, and you know, and Greg's been in the paper, you know, for at least since I moved in and started getting it.
Right.
You know, because I think you started delivering my route, my zip code, last year, because before that I didn't see it. I've been there for 2 years.
Yeah, that sometimes happens when I find a family that's wants to be on the cover and they don't get the magazine. I put their whole street on there.
Good.
I was kind of like growing it like organically.
Yes,
like,
right.
My jokes with the president's sections, there's a lot of those homes that are built like right on top of each other.
Correct.
So there's a lot of homes in there. So I've been going by the effectiveness of the presidency.
Good.
So Lincoln, he's covered. Washington's covered. William Henry Harrison's got to wait a little while, but But I did add Arthur Street. We had family on there, so Chester A. Arthur Street gets it all. I
love it.
And it's great to see that because with Wall as big as it is, I don't know that every single neighborhood. And people that reach out to, and I just put them on the distribution list. And you're right about magazines. Like there's something unique about it. Early in my career, I worked for Ernst & Young as a CPA, and then I went to work for McGraw-Hill.
That's what I was getting to next.
I loved the magazine aspect of it, but I didn't love being an accountant.
Right.
I hated that.
Right.
And I think now, all the things that I've done in my career, we worked for Ernst & Young. A lot of my clients were municipalities. So I saw the inner working of towns, we're really meant to be, community-based, and that's really how a town thrives,
Right.
And also got involved with the Wall Township schools. I am the president of a not-for-profit that support the Wall Township schools.
Good.
Because it's, being a foundation or a not-for-profit, they do great things, but unless you can bring money in,
then what are you doing?
Yeah. So I'm in a unique position too, because I'm dealing with local business owners all day long, and I know the right ones that not only want to be involved with the community, but need it. That's how they survive. That's how a lot of businesses got through COVID, is they continue to figure out a way to serve the community.
Right.
However it is, even they might have taken a loss, they're still there serving the community, and it's good to
Right.
find those types of businesses out there.
Agreed. There's a lot of like I always say this, like Jamie from Eat Clean Bro is such a good example. Like they always donate to Children's Specialized Hospital. They've put Jamie and his wife Kayla put so much work into like the community. They support businesses. Like it's people like that, like during COVID, like that like kept, because small businesses are the heartbeat of every community. You know what I mean? So like at the end of the day, those businesses that went all in and really leveled up, like because even us, like during COVID, I remember like I started adapting social, in 2008 because my family was going to lose the house, and I was the 5. So I was like, I figured it out. I started this business in high school to help, and luckily I did. I got them, out of losing their house. But the biggest thing for me is, like I said, I fell in love with working with other business owners because everybody has a crazy fucked up story, right, on why they started their business, right? Whether it's, hey, I was a CPA and I fucking hated it, or I got fired, or I left my job because there was no opportunity, I got laid off, whatever the heck. And bottom line is like I could resonate with that because like I started adapting social in a desperation, right, for my family as a high schooler. And so I fell in love with these small business owners, these entrepreneurs, these people, because like I can resonate with them, right? Like you and I can resonate because you're pounding on doors, and I did that for a very long time in my career, still do, with our sales team. And at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like when COVID happened, I remember I always said like I'm not doing this for money, I'm doing this because I love working with these people, I want to be a part of their journey. And then COVID happens. And, we have clients in 20 countries. And it was the first time, Ed, that like we had literally, I have people calling us from the UK, Australia, Spain, all these different places. Like, hey, I can't afford to pay your bill. Like my business is shut down.
Yeah.
I can't go in my location, whatever else. And so it was like, we had a majority of our clients, probably like 70% of our clients that couldn't pay. And so they were like, we're going to pause, whatever else to understand, and we did not stop doing work for one client, and we kept going for free. And throughout, for whatever it was, 6 months plus to a year, like we had certain clients who were essential that like obviously still paid and where else and helped us through those times. But, we kept all of our employees. We did work for free for our clients, and I told them you don't have to pay me back for it. Like we just want to, because this is the thing in business. If you are really the person that wants to help people, if you're in the B2B space, like we had an opportunity where it was like, this is where we show, like we put like our money where our mouth is, and we show that we actually give a fuck about you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what we did. And we showed up, and we still help people. And to this day, like again, a majority of those clients are still our clients because they know, wow, when push came to shove, adapting didn't just leave us. you know, and they didn't just say like, okay, your social's going to the wayside, your marketing's going to the wayside, how you're representing yourself. Because in those moments, most people, like right now, like before, Trump got back in office, people were shitting their pants like, who's going to win? It's going to be Trump, it's going to be Kamala. What's going to happen? I don't know. So businesses got real tight, corporate, small businesses, what's going to happen? We don't know. But at the end of the day, as a small business owner, we all know when you put on your work boots in the morning or your wingtips in the morning, there's only one thing we know. Yeah. We got to go out there and go do the grunt work. Yep. That's not going to change no matter who the fuck's president.
True.
Right? So it's like, that's why it was a good moment for us. It was a great moment for me as a CEO too and a founder, because I was like, my team is terrified. The world is terrified. Like, we can't leave our houses. We don't know what's going to happen. But we showed up and we put our money where our mouth was. Right. And we showed them like, we're a partner, not just when it's about money. Yeah. And so anyway, I say all to say that, like, again, like, that's what I love also about this community, and what you're building at Wallen Township. So how much time do we have left?
3 minutes.
All right, 3 minutes, because I got a hard stop coming up anyway. So before we end here with our final 3 minutes, two things. So I have two questions. One's more difficult and one's kind of like, it's not too bad, right?
Right.
Which one do you want first?
Well, like the typical questions. Get that out of the way. Yeah.
Which one?
The typical one.
The easier one?
Yeah, give me
okay.
one.
So throughout the 6 years you've been doing this, right? Has there been, obviously, you're grinding, right? You're meeting new people, you're constantly networking, it's grunt work. Has there been any sort of thought, and maybe it's not even just in the business, like it could be something you heard from like a mentor or like your father or mother or whoever. Is there anything like that comes up for you, like a quote or an adage that comes to mind to you when it comes to like resilience and going through tough times and pushing through?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if I came up with this, but I kind of did. Where I said if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Right.
Then that's kind of what makes what I do so genuine. Because if it was easy, there'd be a million of these magazines out there. You know? And
right.
True. I like, because I'm kind of like unique for Wall Township. Like, I raised my family in Wall. I appreciate Wall Township. I'm able to look at my higher why. Like, I get to work with my oldest daughter, Emily, who's my writer, and she's
how many
California.
kids do you have?
I have 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I have another daughter, Mary Beth. She's a CPA.
Okay.
Living in Asbury Park, having
okay.
the time of her life out there. And my son Tommy is a senior at Wall High School, graduating this year, heading down to Stockton.
Nice.
And I say being able to be with him in the past 6 years, I've always been around him. I've always been in Wall Township. I wasn't commuting anywhere,
Right.
And the relationship that we have now is so solid that when he goes down to college, we'll still be. Stockton's under an hour to get there,
right.
And he's studying communications, you know, and was really interested in what I do, because it's so real. You can't just, nobody like, I don't know if anybody calling me up saying, hey, I want to be in your magazine, because I say it,
So, all right, so, but I like that. If it's easy, everybody will be doing it.
Yeah.
Right? And you know what though, listen, at the end of the day, it's one of these crazy things where it's like, that makes total sense because, like when you think about starting any business, or even your health, right? Like, there's a reason why a majority, do you know what's crazy? I forget the study, I'm going to botch it, but like, it was something nuts on the study of how many percentage of people in this country, in America, have abs. And it's like really, 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 really low, right? Like, it's insane almost.
Right.
I'm pretty sure there's more millionaires than people who have abs, right? When you think about it, again, if you're going to have abs, right? What do you need to do? You need to do all this shit that people are not willing to do. Right. You can't have fucking pizza every day. You can't, eat shitty food. You have to work out. You have to do different things. And starting a business or being healthy or whatever, it's the same thing. Yeah. You got to do things that people are not willing to do. And that's why I asked that question, Ed, because when I started my company, I remember, I was trying to find some sort of motivation, inspiration, whatever. And I went online. I was young. I was 17. And I found this quote that I printed and I put in my at the time my room, my parents' house, but I put it in my bedroom, and then I put it in the bathroom. So when I was brushing my teeth every morning, I looked at it, but it read, "Live a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't." And so I kind of sync that up with what you're saying, because again, if it was easy, right, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah, I know. And it's like getting in shape. You the work that you're going to have to do, and it's going to be hard. You're going to be in pain, but once you're in shape, you got to keep at it.
Totally.
And that's like, even like with this, I got to be out there meeting new businesses all the time. Even if I do get it to the size I'm looking for and the number of sponsors. I'm looking to be like 80 to 100 sponsors would be great because now I'm their guy.
Totally.
But I always got to be meeting new people, be out there seeing the new businesses that are coming, talking to the old ones that now, are changing their business model and know that doing something hyper local is the right move to do. Especially if you're based in the town, you should be known. Because one of the great things about what I'm doing too is I could give you a list of 10 people that do anything, like plumbers. Plumbers probably a bad example because I know 30 of them. But there's always somebody that does something that you're doing.
Totally. And then the second question, the last question we have today is, a lot of times business owners and everyone thinks about like, when you start a business typically, well, and obviously when you're a father, a lot of times you're thinking about legacy, right? Like what are you going to leave behind your kids? What are you going to be remembered by? Whatever else. So I kind of want to do like a simulation. And so like, if you weren't here, right? Do you have any grandkids yet?
No.
Okay. So obviously, God willing, this doesn't happen. But like if your kids are in a room, right, and they're looking at your gravestone with their kids, and they're like, damn, if you met Grandpa Ed, he was X. What do you want to be remembered by your children that they would say to their kids and their future kids about who you were to them and the impact that you left for them?
That's kind of insightful because today actually is my 57th birthday.
Today is?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, man.
You.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, how cool is that?
But it's
damn.
And I even got a call from my dad this morning.
Oh, get out of here.
Happy birthday, This guy, like, he and I, now that he's older, he's looking back on that. And I think for him, like, he wishes, like, he was closer to me growing up because I was,
Yeah.
But I was always very, very close to my children, in the right way, never overbearing. I think even having two daughters, that getting them through high school the right way, they're very ethical. And I think for them, it was just being close with them. And same with my son, I'm always close with them, and I think doing something that is so ingrained in the community, it's just such a nice thing to do.
Totally.
And I think that's kind of a legacy. And I kind of look back on how my personality always was, oh yeah, I know Eddie's a nice guy. Like, he'll help you out.
Right.
And I love that. Like people would always like approach me like, hey, can you help me out?
Right.
And I'm like, why are you asking me? But yeah, let's figure it out. And and I love that. I like sometimes like working on other people's problems. You don't have the time to deal with your own. So it is this kind of role that I found myself in. Like I could continue to do this until I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And
till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, and I'd say there's other people in the community that have already stepped up. I have two writers for me. Like he's going into his sophomore year at Syracuse, but he writes great sports articles for me. I have another writer from the high school, sweetheart of a girl, like writes great community articles for me. They'll be able to, and when you're in print as a writer, it means so much.
It's a good resume.
Yeah, and you can just show you, look at the investment that somebody took, the ink and the paper, and to distribute this, to put my words down. Like anybody could put anything online, but when you're in print,
right?
So it's, I say, to be a connector to those people too, and give them. So being in the business for as long as I've had, I've seen the peaks and the valleys and the rights and the wrongs. It can give great advice to somebody that's just willing to come and do work for me, which
100%.
Which is great. I love being able to have an avenue for that.
Yeah.
And it even kind of transforms into the non-for-profit work that I do with the Wall Township schools. They need connectors too, and I'm able to connect them. And even with connecting to Wall schools, we say like Brookdale, like right there, you guys should be talking to each other more than you are, but in the right way. It's kind of you push that boulder, it'll just towards the hill, it'll roll on its own.
Right.
You don't have to do everything.
Yeah.
So it's cool to be in that situation.
So, Ed, where can people? This is where you plug Wall Township Living. Where can people find you online, social?
Yeah, I know. Online, I think we do most on. We have Wall Township Living as our Instagram page.
Yep.
That's probably the best place for it. Or they could reach out to me. Directly. Or get a copy of the magazine too.
Right.
All my contact info is in there, and especially if you live in Wall Township, want to have your family featured on the cover, like John's going to have it.
Yep.
Reach out to me, or if you know anybody that has a great story, You know, we just had a great interview with Wes Jost because he was he was a mayor of Wall Township, but we did a story because he's 94, living at Sunnyside now.
Oh, nice.
He's a Korean War vet.
Wow.
And he wanted to tell this story.
That's great.
Yeah. So, things like that. I'm always looking for fascinating stories, and Wall's a fascinating town.
It is. It is. It's a great place. Man, happy birthday.
Thank you.
What was your takeaway from 56? I asked my wife. So I ask everybody that I'm close to, especially my wife or my family. I always like to get. Maybe you don't have the answer today, but I always ask that question so everyone knows when I see them. It's like what did you learn this year? What was your biggest takeaway?
It's crazy. There was a lot of changes this past year too. I mean, like the election and everything else.
Right.
Like I kind of looked at it more with going into this. Things are changing for the positive. And I was going into it this year, like this birthday from last birthday. Like I feel like I'm in a healthier mindset.
Good.
Looking to do get into routines that are much more beneficial.
Right.
Like my thing, I'm just walking on the Spring Lake Boardwalk every day.
Good.
That's 4 miles, and you do.
Yep.
You did it last week, and I felt like the Tin Man after you got let down in the rain. But things like that. It's just good to do because you're walking in this natural beauty is right in our backyard.
Right.
And sometimes even living in this area for as long as I had, there'd be months where I wouldn't see the beach. Why not?
Yeah.
It doesn't take that long to do that.
Yep.
It's good to clear your head. And, I think going into it, more of, what can I do for other people? Rather than I got to go out and make sales.
For sure.
I feel like I'm beyond that. And even business owners, your father-in-law, I'm like, listen, it's good that we know each other now.
Yeah.
Totally. I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Right.
But now that we know each other, we can definitely help each other out.
Yeah.
And it's good to do that. So it's important to be in a mindset that you're excited for that.
Exactly.
Excited for the uncertainty of,
Yeah.
well, this person might not be as, taken in by my charms, and that's the tough part of sales,
Yep.
But always to know that, without revenue, nothing moves forward.
Correct.
And this magazine is great. I love the community aspect of it. I love how the community is rallied around it, but I still got to do the hard work and go out and make sales.
Right.
Yep. Find the right sponsors though too. That's
For sure.
That's always the key too. So I'm always looking for experts in whatever field they are, because the expert, not only can you have an ad in the magazine, but you can put content in there.
Right.
Share your knowledge. I always say that people love to be educated; they hate to be sold. So it's different than just having an ad in there. When you put an article together, you're gonna get a full page.
Right.
And that people actually read. It's the horse to water analogy.
Exactly.
You can shove something in somebody's mailbox, but to get it in the house, that's a victory in and of itself.
Right.
Most of my mail gets thrown out in the garage. And I'm walking through the house, it doesn't make it in there.
Right.
But that thing hangs around all month long, which is cool.
For sure. It does. I could definitely testify. Again, and that's why it's smart that you have the people in the front cover.
Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing who this is.
Yeah. That was, the Best Version Media. That was their business model from the start. And I've had other publishers, because we in Monmouth County, we have them. I think we have 8 other publications in Monmouth County. And, sometimes they want to switch it up and stay with the families. Because that's what it's all about.
Right.
Even some of the other community-based magazines that are around, they're more about the town.
Right.
But you're going to run out of landmarks. You're going to run out of restaurants, and then it becomes more of the businesses that are in there.
Right.
Even though a lot of business owners are on the cover, but it's different. They live in town.
Right.
Here's what we do, and you do see that, especially Wall Township. I would say 80% of the people, the homeowners of Wall Township, they own some sort of business.
Correct. Right.
The days of everybody working for AT&T and J&J are gone.
Right.
There's business owners everywhere you go.
Correct.
Yeah. And a lot of them, they got their start in Wall Township, which is cool.
That is, yeah.
They say that's a good way for them to give back.
Right.
To a community that's supporting them. It's fun to be on the prowl for those businesses.
Yeah. I love it.
Thank you, John.
All right, man. Ed, happy birthday again.
Thank you very much
for being here.
This is awesome.
Yeah. And guys, go give Wall Township Living a follow. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.
All right.